Welcome to my sewing room. I discovered while I was planning this show that I will never live long enough to make all the projects I have in mind. I want to sew everything I see. It really just makes my heart race fast thinking about it. Sometimes I don't know where to start. I also love to take time away from major projects to do something simple. It is all so rewarding. Today, let's share our time learning techniques that will enhance our sewing skills and bring joy to our lives. This is the most wonderful technique. It is called Windowpane smocking. First, we start out with a pleated piece of fabric, which is done on a pleating machine, or more commonly called a smocking machine. And then hand smocking has been done on this one. This is how it looks when it's finished. Now, of course, you know that we can do machine smocking also. Then the little picture is drawn out because we're going to make a window pane that's this beautiful, intricate shape. This is drawn on organdy. After we draw the intricate shape on organdy with regular thread and a very, very short stitch, stitch the organdy piece to your fashion fabric, which in this case is going to be on a pillow, which is gold silk dupioni. After stitching very carefully, come in and cut away on the inside, leaving between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Clip the curves very, very carefully, then turn it right side out, and now you can see we have the window pane that we're going to put on top of the smocking. Do you love this or what? Now then, as you can see, the window pane is on top of the smocking, and what we have left to do now is to hand stitch it. Now, some of you might machine stitch this. You can try it. We just thought it was prettiest just to hand whip it. And here is the little tiny version of the larger pillow I'm going to show you in just a minute. Is this a beautiful pillow with the cording around the edges and the window pane smocking? I'm now going to show you exactly how that happened with the stitching too. This pillow is a beautiful, beautiful size. It would be so pretty in a living room, family room, bedroom, and actually you can do it out of chocolate brown silk dupioni if you wanted to. You could do it out of those wonderful stripes. We just think this is an elegant pillow, very tailored and very high fashion for any room in your house. And for those of you that love to smock, here is another way that you can smock. Now, how did this pillow come about? First of all, to do the smocking, I wanted to show you, for those of you that have never seen a smocking machine or a pleater, what a pleater looks like. A pleater has 3 brass rods, and you stick your fabric in and run it through, and there are the threads, and that is how you get the pleated fabric. Okay, we have the pleated fabric, and this time, as I said, we did hand smocking, which is beautiful, but you can do machine smocking, and on this window pane, you could put cross stitch behind it. You could simply put another color of fabric, or you could do machine embroidery on your piece to put in behind that beautiful little window pane shape. So the smocking piece is finished. Then it's time to draw a shape, whatever shape you would like to draw. This one is so pretty and intricate, and I put it on organdy. This will remain with the piece. This is going to be put on the next piece of silk dupioni. After you put the organdy with the tracing on top of your fashion fabric, in our case we used a beautiful gold silk dupioni, then it is your task to tiny, about a 1 stitch length, tiny straight stitch around these intricate lines. It will behoove you to use either an open toe embroidery foot or a clear foot of some kind as you go around those lines. And one of the things that I love to tell you is that you're going to stitch about, let me just stitch a little bit for you. You're going to stitch about 3 stitches at one time. Well, this is a little bit of a but then you're going to turn. You've got to veer around. This is really intricate sewing. Very short stitch length. Now here I'm to the corner, so I veer around. Please have a foot that you can see. Delicate stitching means you just do short stitching, and you're so careful when you come up into the point. Use needle down position, and then you can veer around, but just a few stitches at a time is the secret on doing something this intricate and delicate. Now, after you've stitched very carefully all the way around, it is then time to very carefully cut it away. And I suggest using some tiny little scissors for this, because when I get in here cutting these little bitty, those little curves that I'm trying to leave about a 1/8 to 1/4 inch, well, a little bit less than a quarter seam allowance, I really need some small scissors to go in here. And this is one time when you really need to go slowly. This is not a quick project. Now, after you get the center cut completely out, then another critical and very careful cutting job is to make tiny little cuts, especially in your corners. Be very careful not to cut your thread, but I mean tiny little cuts all the way around where this really will turn right side out beautifully. Then the next step is to turn it right side out. And you probably know that one of my favorite sewing tools is the shish kebab stick. So you can take, as you turn it right side out, you can take the shish kebab stick and very carefully go in and press the points very carefully and then press it. Now this is the top to my pillow. I have the silk dupioni, I have the organdy lining behind it, and now I'm ready to use this and put on top of my smocking. Now, isn't this pretty? I have my smocked piece, or else machine embroidered piece. You know what you could do? If you have an antique piece of cross stitch or something from your mother's, or maybe an antique handkerchief, it would also be pretty to put anything you want to, you can put behind this window pane, and it will be beautiful. And if you have a machine that embroiders, and this happens to be a family treasure, you might want to make a label to go on the back of it to tell to whom this handkerchief belonged, and please put on there who made the pillow and the date that it was made. It will be treasured so much for future generations. Okay, now we're ready to do the hand stitching to go around. The pillow basically is finished, except we have a wonderful cording on the edge of the pillow. And you know, cording you just simply put down, clip the edges of the cording, cross it over where it crosses, where you can make a pretty stitch, stitch it around, and put the backing on the pillow. Now this pillow, as I said, it is one of my very favorites. And remember, you can put anything you want to inside that pillow. And next, we're going to share some more window pane smocking with you. I have some beautiful things to share with you using this wonderful technique, window pane smocking. For those of us that love doll dressing, this is one of the most beautiful little doll dresses I've ever seen. I'll kind of point around so you can see where the triangle or the diamond-shaped window pane is. Tiny little smocking and the smallest 3 little bullion rosebuds you've ever seen in the center of each window pane. This is one of my favorite doll dresses on the 18-inch doll. Do you have anybody in your family that loves butterflies? Well, I do. My granddaughter Rebecca, butterflies are her favorite thing. Look at this adorable dress with the bodice with butterflies. You can see the smocking is done in purple. The Madeira window pane are butterfly wings all across it, and then there's a little appliqué butterfly. There are even beautiful purple beads to make this purple butterfly. That is a happy dress. Let's do Easter clothes. Oh, we do love to make beautiful dresses at Easter. This little bunny dress, or it could be a bunny dress, it doesn't have to be Easter, it just looks like Easter. There is a little bunny appliqued in the middle, and then there are 5 Easter eggs done in beautiful Easter egg colors with little tiny ribbons woven in and out of the smocking. I think this is one of the most beautiful Easter dresses that I have ever seen, and I just cannot imagine any of my little granddaughters that would not love to have this for an Easter dress. Don't you just love this window pane smocking? Now, something beautiful for Christmas is this wonderful plaid silk dupioni dress, and this time the window panes are shaped like Christmas ornaments. It has a dark green fabric smocked with a gold floss. Absolutely beautiful for a Christmas dress. Now don't forget the little boys. Sometimes people say, now Martha, you forget little boys, but I don't forget little boys. I have a lot of grandsons and they love pretty clothes too. Here is a vest, a very grown-up boy vest that also has the same Christmas ornaments on it. Now for my little grandsons, we can certainly do window pane smocking too. This cute little one-piece suit has a window pane. This is a little Easter bunny, and has a window pane, little open egg, and the little Easter bunny. Absolutely adorable. Now for the mamas and the grandmamas, we're not going to forget you either. Would you look at this wonderful dragonfly using the Windowpane smocking idea? There's a dragonfly. The Madeira is done in, the Windowpane is done in dragonfly, black smocking with beautiful black beads, and then the body of the dragonfly has been done in green and gold. I hope you have enjoyed this Windowpane smocking. It is one of my favorite things to do with smocking. And now we have some scrapbooking ideas for you. I have two very personal scrapbook pages to share with you now, and I think that probably you'll get some ideas to take some of your family treasures. The first page has a picture of my mother, Anna Ruth Dicus Campbell, right as she graduated from the University of Alabama in 1940. Here is a little note from one of her teachers inviting her to come to dinner with two other students to their home. My grandmother, Belle Dicus, was quite a meticulous person, and here is the list that she made of everything that my mother took with her when she went away to college at the University of Alabama. It even includes 30 coat hangers and 16 hankies. This is another little treasure from a dance my mother went to, but you are going to love this. Mother went to, as soon as she graduated from the University of Alabama, she went immediately to graduate school at Vanderbilt. On May 6, 1940, she wrote a check to Vanderbilt University in the amount of $3 for her room reservation at Wesley Hall. This is precious to me. And by the way, we've used braids and ribbons and flowers and wonderful things that we love to use in sewing. This is maybe my most favorite scrapbook page in the world. This is my son John, that many of you know is a missionary in Africa, and my father, Paul Campbell. These are the ties, not my father's ties, just ties, and this is a little picture, and on the bottom, on the cuff of a man's shirt, it says John Crockett. By the way, this is machine embroidered on the cuff of a man's shirt. John Crockett with his grandfather, Paul, and he called him Gangy. Paul Gangy Campbell, 1967. Now let me share with you how easy it is to do this tie scrapbook page, which I happen to adore. First of all, you take a man's tie, and you don't use the fat part of the tie, you use the back of the tie, which is skinny. All right, I cut off the back of the tie, and the easy way to close it up is simply just to cut it off, fold it down, and wrap floss around it. That's the easy, fast way. Then you use the rest of the tie, you know, the fat part of the tie on the front, to cover a little frame, a little picture frame. I'll turn this over. You just take that part of the tie, cover it, clip it, and make your little picture frame, and then stick your picture in behind it. And let me bring this one back in one more time to see the whole thing. So you see you have the shirt cuff, the ties, and the picture frame. And next I have some beautiful hand embroidery techniques for you. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today Wendy Schoen. Wendy is president of Wendy Schoen Design. She is a frequent designer for So Beautiful magazine. Wendy has studied embroidery at the Royal School of Needlework in London and in Madeira, Portugal, and she's taught all over the world too, I might add. Wendy has designed and published 33 patterns and authored 4 books. Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. It's always great to be here. Today, what I'd like to share with you is a specific type of cutwork known as Italian cutwork. And this particular type of cutwork I'm referring to is shown on this little garment, the little butterfly in front. As you can see, it's just a simple cut work outline of the wings, and it's all done by hand, and it's very, very easy to do. So let's go to the demo fabric, and I'll show you how easy it is. You will begin by drawing off the design. Now this particular type of cut work is referred to as Pisa work because of the town it originated in, and it is noted by its curved lines or simple shapes. Now, what I've done so far is I have used one strand of thread In this case, I'm just using pearl cotton because it's easier to see on camera, but normally I would use either stranded cotton or floche or some sort of cutwork thread such as cotton embroidered or whatever you can find that works well for your garment. And just start with a simple running stitch. When you do your running stitch, you're going to work all the way around. I usually begin at the first bar. These are my bars going across here. I begin at the first bar without a knot, just leave the little fuzzy end there, come around, and when you do your running stitch, keep as much thread on the surface of the fabric as possible, taking tiny nips in the fabric. The idea is to keep the thread on the front of the fabric. I'm going to end my running stitch when I approach the bar on the other side. So I have my first bar and my second bar. So here now I'm going to begin my crossover stitch. I want to take the thread across and I'm going to sew under the foundation work like this. And this work is done without a hoop. And then I want to come back and take another stitch on the other edge, just picking up the fabric and the running stitch in the stitch, and back again for the third time. So now I have 3 threads, and we usually refer to this as throwing them across. Really what we're doing is sewing it across. So if I say that, you'll know what I'm talking about. Now the next step is to work a whip stitch across the bars. Now you can actually do a buttonhole stitch if you prefer, but in this technique I'm going to do a whip stitch, which means I'm going to just take the needle under the threads, and remember I'm not sewing through the fabric now. I'm just going to cover up the bars so that I have a nice neat satin appearance to my stitch here. And I see that my needle is getting caught. So here's a trick I do sometimes. I take the eye of the needle and slide it under so it doesn't get caught in the fabric. The worst thing you could do is pick up the fabric by mistake, and then when you go to cut it, you won't be able to because you've picked up the fabric. Now I'm going to move to the next board, and through the magic of television, I've got my bars completed. Okay, so what I did is I finished working my first bar, continued my running stitch here, and then completed my second bar. And now I'm going to just turn the fabric just slightly so I can get my needle right where it belongs, right next to the bar, the last bar, and complete the running stitch entirely. Okay, now at this point, I want to park my needle and take very sharp, finely pointed scissors, and I actually have to cut through the fabric. And of course, you do not want to cut through the bars, so you want to do this carefully. Just slide the tip of the needle under the bar like that. Bring it almost to the foundation and cut 2 little slits here with the tip of the scissors, ever so carefully. You don't want to mess up your fabric at this point. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is I need to work it so that I can fold my fabric and stitch at the same time. Let me just turn it around this way. Taking the tip of the needle, I can now push the fabric under. So really all I need to do is just whip stitch around the outer edge, just as you would for an eyelet or any type of cut work. And you could use buttonhole stitch if you prefer, but like I said, with Pisa work, usually you're doing just a little tiny satin whip stitch. Now I'm going to work this all the way around until I get to here, and then of course I'm going to have to switch across on the bar because you can't stitch over the bar. You'll just stitch across and then jump to the next spot and continue on as you did before. Now on the next sample, let's see if I can just move this out of the way. This is my completed Pisa work circle or oval, and naturally I would not be doing it this large. Just keep in mind that I am enlarging it proportionately to show you close up on camera. Now once all the stitches get around to the beginning, I need to turn it around, and to tie off, all you'll do is just take the needle, see if I can, under the stitches, just slide it through. You don't need to put a knot back here. I think people love to put knots, Martha, and a lot of times you don't really need to. And that's all there is to it, except for one last detail. Here are the little pieces of fabric that were turned under as I worked. So now all I need to do is just trim these away neatly, and the work is done. And it will not ravel, and it will not come apart, and as long as you use a very stable linen or fabric. You wouldn't want to use a loosely woven fabric for this technique because after all you are cutting into the fabric.
Wendy, thank you so very much. And now let's do a little doll dressing. I am so happy to have as my guest today Phyllis Hoffman. Phyllis is president of Hoffman Media, and she is the publisher of Southern Lady Magazine, Just Cross Stitch Magazine, and Southern Baby Magazine. Phyllis, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. I am so excited to be here today because we're going to talk about dressing and sewing for a beautiful doll. My mother made the most beautiful doll clothes for me and my dolls when I was a young lady. And so today it gives the stitchers and sewers an opportunity to practice technique and use small pieces of fabric and laces and yet create dramatic results. Today, this beautiful dress that we have here is silk and lace. And Martha, turn that around so that they can see how beautiful the sleeve is. And we're going to focus on the sleeve today and that beautiful lace band that comes down the center of the sleeve. And let's begin on our boards today with a simple pattern that you would cut from your favorite pattern, and this is the silk. And as you can see, we drew a line down the center of the sleeve indicating where we want to center our lace pieces. Using a flat edge, we just simply butt these laces right over the line. And then with a zigzag stitch in the same color, of course, up at this here, Martha, we would do the beautiful zigzagging. It's shown in blue for so that you can see it, but do you see how that perfectly attaches the lace to the sleeve? Now, how do we cover those stitches? Well, we have selected today a beautiful insertion. When we purchased it, it had a cord in the center, but we simply are removing it, leaving us with a beautiful, delicate piece of lace. One of my favorite tools is a bodkin. Now, this looks kind of scary if you've never used one, but it has two places to insert your ribbon, and I cut my ribbon at a slant. When you cut it at a slant, it's easy to thread. And you simply insert it to the back, pull it back through the hole on the top, and that will secure your ribbon. It will also make it very easy to glide through your insertion. We've selected a cream ribbon to match our silk. And then we just simply put it on top of our lace and zigzag it as shown, covering our seams and making it very, very elegant. And of course, you run your gathering stitches in the places indicated on your pattern and finish the sleeve as shown. And Martha, when we look at it, we have a beautiful edging and a beautiful sleeve that creates just a fabulous dress for your favorite doll.
And as you said, if you want to do something small to practice techniques, what greater idea to use than a doll dress. Phyllis, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Martha.
And now I have a beautiful, beautiful antique dress to share with you. I have the most beautiful dress to share with you today with some really unusual features. Let me show you the skirt first. It's really, really unusual and hard to find fabric on these 100-year-old dresses which has any kind of a print. This little dress has tiny little brown flowers which are scattered over the Swiss batiste fabric. The skirt has a couple of pieces of really pretty wide insertion and an unusually wide hem, maybe 8 or 9 inches on the hem. The blouse is really spectacular for those of us that love to sew, and I think that's most of you out there. It has two beautiful ruffles on the sleeve, one which has a little bit of lace trim, the other one is just hemmed. Two pieces of the insertion, but the sleeves are what are really unusual as far as sewing details. This lady has made a tuck on either side of the sleeve, and then she has gathered the tuck, which makes the sleeve have a beautiful gather, and then there's just a pretty little ruffle on the bottom. Now let me go to the back. I'm just going to hold it right up this way so you can see. I am so happy that today we do not wear bones in our clothes. This lining of this beautiful blouse has these very, very stiff bones, which of course held the lining up, and then there's a little ribbon which tied this closed in the back. And by the way, there's something kind of unusual But I have had other pieces of Victorian clothes. The dress is closed with hooks and eyes. Now that would not be something that we would do today, but isn't it fun to see how these mothers and grandmothers and seamstresses of yesteryear used their creativity and what they had and just the way that they like to make things. I want to thank you so much for coming to my sewing room today. I've had a good time and I hope you have. Won't you join me next time?